The cameras flashed. The crowd froze. And just like that, Hollywood had a new obsession.
It really was the picture of the ideal modern family back in the early 2000s.
Exactly. But, what happens when the flashbulbs cool? When that trailblazing, picture-perfect family completely shatters under the weight of, severe addiction and $80 million disinheritance and a medium-security prison sentence.
It's a profound collision, honestly. You have this impossible public image crashing into a very, very painful private reality.
Welcome to Starscope Report. Join us as we uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And our mission for today's deep dive is unpacking the highly publicized, deeply emotional saga of Rosie O'Donnell and her estranged daughter, Chelsea.
We have a massive stack of sources to guide us today, tracking this whole timeline. We're pulling from TMZ, Us Weekly, and Stars, Extra TV, OK Magazine.
Right, all the daily celebrity news reports.
Yeah, exactly. But we're also pairing those with something much deeper. We have an academic piece from a CUNY capstone project that actually places Rosie's parenting journey into the broader historical evolution of LGBTQ plus culture.
Which is so necessary because you simply cannot understand the fracture between Rosie and Chelsea or the emotional prison reunion they just had without understanding the immense societal pressure they were under from day one.
Completely agree. Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the legal reality Chelsea was facing before that prison reunion even became a possibility.
Right, so she is 28 now, and late 2024 was just a devastating period for her.
It really was. Instead of listing out every single charge, what we see in the court records is just this rapid cascade of arrests across September, October, and December.
Yeah, it was a complete spiral.
It involved methamphetamine possession, child neglect, and bail jumping.
And all of that culminated in a January 2025 plea deal. Chelsea was handed an 18-month prison sentence, but the court stayed it.
Stayed it, meaning the judge essentially put that prison time on a shelf.
Exactly, yeah. She wouldn't have to serve the 18 months, provided she successfully completed 6 years of strict probation through a treatment drug court.
Okay, so if you are listening to this and thinking, well, 6 years of probation, you just check in with an officer, pass a drug test, and you're fine, we really need to clarify what a treatment drug court actually demands.
It is not casual at all.
Not even a little bit. The mandate was absolute sobriety, 0 alcohol, 0 drugs without a valid prescription, no contact with known dealers or users, plus mandatory mental health assessments, and she had to earn her GED.
And that phrase, absolute sobriety, it sounds perfectly reasonable in a courtroom setting.
Right.
But we have to look at the biology of the person standing before the judge. Rosie O'Donnell herself released a public statement during this period, explicitly stating that Chelsea was born into addiction.
I am struggling to connect the dots here, though. If someone is facing 18 months in a prison cell, doesn't the sheer terror of that consequence override the impulse to use?
You would think so.
But why is it so impossible to just stop when the stakes are that undeniably high?
Because addiction of that severity simply does not respond to logic or, legal threats. When someone is born into addiction, their neurological baseline is fundamentally altered from day one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, their brain's reward system is wired differently, so the drug court is essentially demanding a monumental daily rewiring of the brain's chemistry under the threat of incarceration.
So they're treating a physiological crisis with a legal checklist.
Exactly. For someone with deeply rooted substance abuse issues, compliance isn't just waking up and using willpower. It is an agonizing biological battle.
It makes me think of asking someone to walk a tightrope across a massive canyon, but they have severe vertigo.
That's a great analogy.
The treatment court is the rope. It's a lifeline to the other side. But there is absolutely no net. One erratic slip, one misstep, and you are in free fall straight into the prison system.
And, well, that slip happened in October of 2025. Her probation was officially revoked.
And that legal safety net just vanished.
Poof. Gone. The official court documents cited a lack of progress in her mandated drug treatment program, but TMZ actually obtained a Department of Corrections report that details a highly bizarre incident.
Oh, this part is wild.
It seemed to be the final straw for the judge.
According to the report, Chelsea was driving erratically with a male passenger in the back seat, and the allegation is that she reached back, touched his inner thigh, and when he pushed her hand away, She allegedly touched his genitals without his consent,
Right, and the report states she then became upset and her driving became even more reckless.
which is just, it's so chaotic.
We should note that Chelsea completely denied that narrative to the police.
Right, she claimed it was consensual.
Yeah, she said the encounter was entirely consensual and admitted to having several other sexual relationships at the time, but the judge had to look at the totality of the circumstances.
The erratic behavior, the failure to progress in treatment, and this deeply concerning alleged incident.
Exactly. The judge determined the terms of probation were undeniably violated. The 18-month stayed sentence was activated, and she was sent to jail.
And that's not even the wildest part.
No, it really isn't.
Because Chelsea losing her legal safety net didn't happen in a vacuum.
Hmm.
It actually mirrored how she'd already lost her familial safety net.
Specifically, an $80 million one.
If you are loving these Hollywood twists so far, make sure you are subscribed because we've got even crazier stories ahead in this deep dive. While this legal collapse was playing out, the ties between mother and daughter were being severed in a very public, very permanent way.
Reports from the Daily Mail and in Stars detail that Rosie made the drastic decision to disinherit Chelsea entirely.
An $80 million fortune just gone.
Which forces us to look at the psychological impact of wealth on family trauma.
Yeah, totally.
When a parent cuts a child off financially to that extreme degree, it's often viewed from the outside as like the ultimate tough love intervention for an addict. You cut off the resources that enable the addiction.
Right, but it also abruptly removes the insulation that has defined that child's entire existence.
Insulation is the perfect word for it.
Wealth doesn't just buy things, you know. It insulates you from the consequences of the world. But the mechanical problem with insulation is that it also creates a soundproof barrier.
Wow, yeah.
It keeps the cold out, sure, but it also means no one outside can hear you when you are crying for authentic connection. And Chelsea's reaction to being cut off wasn't just to accept it quietly.
Yeah, she retaliated.
Big time. She went to a Wisconsin court and petitioned to legally change her last name from O'Donnell to Nevins.
Which is the maiden name of her biological mother, Deanna McCauley.
That is such a structural, foundational rejection of the O'Donnell legacy.
She moved to Wisconsin to be closer to her biological roots, essentially trying to legally and geographically erase the adoption and the celebrity identity that came with it.
To understand the mechanics of that resentment, we really have to look back at a pivotal moment in 2015, which was heavily covered by CBS News.
Chelsea was a teenager then.
Yeah, and she went missing. Rosie put out this desperate public plea, reporting her daughter as a runaway. Chelsea was eventually found in New Jersey with a guy named Steve Shearer, who she'd met on Tinder.
But the narrative Chelsea provided afterward in this explosive interview completely contradicted Rosie's version of events.
Completely. She claimed she didn't run away at all. She stated that Rosie explicitly kicked her out right before her 18th birthday.
And she had this quote that really highlights how that insulation functioned in their home.
Oh, the boarding school quote.
Yeah. She said, quote, "Money is what allowed for Rosie to send her away to 6 or 7 boarding schools." She went on to say, "Rich people can pay someone else to raise their kids. Middle or lower class parents actually have to be parents. They can't ship their kids off at the first sign of trouble."
That is a staggering perspective to hear from a child.
It really is. She didn't view the boarding schools or the immense wealth as privileges or opportunities like most people would assume. She viewed them as mechanisms of abandonment.
To her, the money was just a tool Rosie used to maintain emotional distance.
Right.
But okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
Millions of kids rebel against their parents, right? Millions of teenagers feel misunderstood or claim their parents don't love them enough or they just hate the rules of their house. Why are we treating Chelsea's rebellion as this massive cultural moment rather than just standard, albeit highly publicized, teenage angst?
That is exactly where the CUNY academic capstone piece becomes absolutely essential to parsing this story.
Okay, lay it on me.
Chelsea's rebellion wasn't happening in a standard suburban household. It was happening in the epicenter of a major cultural shift. The CUNY paper contrasts the LGBTQ plus culture of the 1970s with the early 2000s.
Right, because post-Stonewall, it was very different.
Exactly. The movement back then was largely underground. It was focused on radical liberation and honestly often rejected traditional nuclear family structures entirely.
But fast forward to the late 90s and early 2000s, and the community is fighting a completely different battle.
A battle for domesticity.
Yeah. They're fighting for the right to have a normal family life, marriage equality, white picket fences, $200,000 surrogacies.
Let me rephrase that slightly to capture the academic angle, though. It wasn't just a shift in desires, it was a really heavy political burden. The community felt they had to prove their worth and stability to mainstream America.
And Rosie was right at the center of that.
In 2002, Rosie came out on Diane Sawyer's show with an explicit stated goal. She wanted to show America what a quote-unquote normal gay family looked like. Wow. She wanted to be the undeniable face of gay adoption, so she took on the staggering weight of representing an entire demographic's capacity for domestic success.
So if you are Chelsea, you aren't just a teenager acting out or struggling with the early signs of generational addiction.
No, your flaws are a direct threat to a political movement.
You are a crack in the stained glass window of this perfect, hard-won family image. If Rosie is the poster child for the ideal modern family, Chelsea's addiction shatters that magazine cover.
Which creates an impossible standard for a child to develop under. The pressure to be perfect, not just for your parents, but for a skeptical nation that is actively debating your parents' right to even have you, it's crushing.
It makes the messy, unpredictable reality of raising a flawed human being feel like a catastrophic failure rather than just, normal life.
Exactly. Which brings up the broader context of Rosie's family today.
Right. Over the years, she adopted 5 kids in total. And recently, sources report she relocated to Ireland with her youngest, Clay.
Clay is 13, autistic, and identifies as non-binary.
And just to stick strictly to the facts reported by the sources here, this move to Ireland in early 2025 was apparently influenced, at least in part, by the re-election of Donald Trump.
We are just stating that as a reported fact of her relocation.
Right. No political stance from us, just reporting what the sources say.
And Rosie has been very vocal and public about her fiercely supportive parenting of Clay. She's written about how Clay's autism has been a gift that taught her deeper compassion, and she fully affirms Clay's non-binary identity.
Seeing that supportive, fiercely protective dynamic with Clay really underscores how complex and fractured the relationship with Chelsea had become. The contrast is sharp.
It's incredibly sharp.
You have one child being moved across the globe to ensure a supportive environment, and another child sitting in a Wisconsin prison cell.
But later in the episode, we will talk about the shocking twist nobody saw coming. And actually, that twist starts right inside that prison cell.
Yes. Stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next, because this is where the dynamic fundamentally shifts.
We've explored the strict legal boundaries of the drug court and the fractured family boundaries of the disinheritance. Now, ironically, we have to look at how the physical, concrete boundaries of a prison actually initiated healing.
In June 2026, Rosie visited Chelsea at the Taycheedah Correctional Institution. And the detail that stood out to me more than anything else in these sources, Chelsea was the one who asked for the visit.
After a decade of estrangement,
changing her name, fighting in the press, the $80 million disinheritance, and Chelsea initiated contact.
Think about the psychology of that prison environment compared to her past, though.
What do you mean?
Well, when Chelsea was in the outside world, she had access to the media to air grievances. She could move across state lines. She could rely on chaotic relationships. All of those things were tools of avoidance.
Ah, I see.
The prison environment, as harsh and punitive as it is, systematically stripped every single one of those tools away.
It removed the insulation entirely.
Precisely. It enforced a brutal sobriety that paused the chaos of her addiction. Without the drugs, without the media spin, without the wealth or the boarding schools, she was left with nothing but a core realization of isolation.
And in that clarity, she reached out to the mother she had spent years pushing away.
And Rosie processed this visit publicly, but in a very different way than her old defensive press releases. She wrote a deeply emotional poem on Instagram.
I read it. It's beautiful.
She described the anticipation of sitting in the visiting room, writing, quote, "Chelsea is first through the door, my heart skips a beat." She specifically noted Chelsea's physical state, how she looked healthy, with clear skin and rested blue eyes.
And she mentioned she was wearing her green prison uniform.
The visual of that green uniform is vital to this story. It strips away any illusion of celebrity, wealth, or status. It is the ultimate equalizer in that room.
It really is.
Yeah.
Rosie wrote that Chelsea turns 29 this summer, but when she looks at her across that visiting table, all she sees is a blonde baby in diapers. If you are a parent listening to this, you probably know exactly how that mechanism works. No matter the trauma, the arrests, or the terrible things said in interviews, the biological parental lens just defaults to that vulnerable infant you first held.
But the profound tragedy of the visit lies in the generational echo playing out in that room.
Because Chelsea is a mother herself.
Yes. She has 4 kids: Skylar, Riley, Avery Lynn, and Atlas. Rosie noted in her poem that these children have not visited Chelsea in prison, which pains Chelsea deeply.
So picture the weight of this.
Yeah.
Rosie is sitting there, overwhelmed by the pain and love of being a mother, watching her own daughter be consumed by the pain of missing her children. The generational trauma is literally sitting right there at the table with them.
And the climax of this visit is something a screenwriter would be criticized for inventing because it is almost too heavy-handed as a metaphor.
The tornado warning.
Yes! Literally, the alarms went off. A tornado warning forced the prison to cut the visitation short. They had to immediately evacuate the room.
The cinematic irony is unbelievable. You have a literal meteorological storm raging outside the concrete walls of the prison, forcing them apart, while inside, a decade-long emotional storm between this mother and daughter is finally, quietly calming down.
But the connection survived the interruption. Rosie shared that they are no longer fighting. They're speaking on the phone every single day now.
Oh wow, every day.
Every single day. For the first time in years, Rosie expressed a grounded, genuine hope for Chelsea's future, her continued sobriety, and her eventual reunion with her own 4 kids.
It really makes you rethink the mechanics of reconciliation.
Totally.
All the expensive interventions, the 6 or 7 boarding schools, the public pleading, none of it worked. It took the harshest, most restrictive environment imaginable to force the stillness required for them to actually see each other again as just mother and daughter.
It also serves as a warning about the expectations we place on families. When a family is forced to represent a political ideal or carry the weight of a movement, the inevitable reality of human flaw becomes a catastrophic failure rather than a normal struggle.
Yeah, Rosie and Chelsea were crushed under the weight of an image no family could logically sustain. Only by letting go of that image entirely, in the most humbling of circumstances, did they find a way back to each other.
So, what does all of this actually mean for you? If we distill these sources, from the tabloid timelines to the academic theories, the core truth is that addiction and family trauma are the ultimate equalizers.
They do not care about your bank account.
No, they do not care if you change the face of the American family on national television. The pain of loving someone through severe addiction and the pain of being the one addicted bypasses all the insulation money can buy.
And it forces us to reconsider what actually brings people together after profound hurt. Sometimes the resources we think are helping are actually the things maintaining the distance.
Absolutely.
I want to leave you with a thought to mull over as you go about your day. Think about your own life, your own strained relationships, or the boundaries you've drawn when things got difficult.
Yeah, think about what's really keeping you apart.
If a relationship that was fractured by a decade of public warfare, an $80 million disinheritance, and the devastating chaos of severe generational addiction can find a spark of healing under the harsh fluorescent lights of a prison visiting room, what does that say about the sheer resilience of the human bond?
It's a powerful question.
Are the walls we build to protect ourselves, the money, the geographic distance, the anger, actually the very things keeping us from reconciling with the people we love the most?
You've been listening to Starscope Report, where we uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture.
Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.